Waiting. Hey everyone, it's John here with another episode of E-Commerce with John Show. This is episode 41. I'm joined today by a good friend of mine, an e-commerce buddy, Carla, who's also here in Australia with me, another lovely Australian. That makes two in a row, which is very unusual. Two Australians in a row on the show. Carla is an experienced e-commerce entrepreneur. She started way back in 2012 and I think hasn't looked back since. She's been into dropshipping, eBay, importing things from China to sell through a website. And I'm very happy to have her here today. Hi, Carla.
Hi, John.
How you doing?
Good. And you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Very well. I was. We were talking before we jumped on live, and you were telling me about how your youngest was starting at kindy today. So for people in other countries, in Australia, we have kindy, which is sort of before school. It's the year before school, but it's like it's compulsory down there in Melbourne, right?
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
Yeah, it's compulsory up here as well. And how's that feel? That's your youngest is off now.
Yeah, well, I said
you've got three kids,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Now I said to Daniel it's time for another one, but he's pretty adamant that he doesn't want any more. But yeah, he's not happy, so it's a bit stressful at the moment, knowing that he doesn't want to go. But anyway, he'll get used to it. Kind of has to. So
yeah, nice. And so you started your first. You mentioned before you started your first business, or you kind of got into the e-commerce world back in 2012, selling on eBay, right?
Yeah, so through Facebook and eBay. So I had a Facebook page, and I had imported some products, and I just list them on my page. This is probably the very start of Facebook pages when you didn't have to pay for ads and thousands of people would see your posts. And so I grew that up quite a lot. And then, I was selling on the same products on eBay. So, but I just kind of, I had my first and then I had my second child, and it was just very time consuming, obviously, given that I'd have to spend all day dealing with customers, picking and packing and that sort of thing. So I think I stopped in 2017. So I went for a while.
Yeah. That's a pretty good run.
Yeah.
And for everyone overseas who's not in Australia that's listening in Australia, we didn't have Amazon for a long time. And so eBay was like the thing. It was like the big online marketplace. And it stayed there for a long time. So I was interested. One of the things I wanted to sort of get some thoughts from you on, it's something I'm always interested in, and I talk to people a bit from time to time, is the whole mixing being a parent and running businesses, particularly starting businesses is kind of like a solo entrepreneur. So you mentioned that you started that eBay business around the same time that you had your first child, and then you obviously have had more children in the time since, and you've been running businesses pretty much that whole time. How does that, what's that like? Like if you were speaking to somebody who's maybe about to be a parent or planning that in the near future, how do you, I mean, for me, because I know I've got 4 kids, and I kind of went through the same thing. I started business before I had most of them. They kind of came along after I was in business, and it made some really big changes for me, or it meant some really big changes for me, and sort of how I ran my businesses. Do you have any thoughts?
I think it's a bit different. I was a primary carer, so I think it's a bit different.
Totally, yeah.
Were you working full time when you started having kids? Still?
No.
Okay,
so I'd switched over to running my businesses full time.
Okay. So I think in one way that was an advantage that I was at home. So, when they're little, you can, they sleep quite a lot. Although I think with your first, you probably don't get as much time to yourself because you're kind of, watching over them a lot more. But given that I was at home, I did have a lot more flexibility. So, like when they were asleep, I could get a lot of work done. And I think it would be difficult as a parent, working full time and running the business. You'd have to have a very supportive partner. I mean, it can be done, but that was probably something that I had a slight advantage at. Whereas, and in general, being a parent and running a business, it's very difficult because having a business is a bit like having a baby in that, you want to put a lot of time into it, and if it's a bit of an obsession, So when I started drop shipping, which was in 2017, I would work when my youngest was sleeping, and then my husband would come home at about 6, and then he'd pretty much take over complete parenting duties, and I'd work until 1 a.m. So that was for probably 3 or 4 months just to get everything up and running and live. And even now, I still work around the kids. So, I still go to all their activities and everything, but I work during the day. It's a lot easier now because I have a lot more time during the day. I work during the day, and then I'll work at night after they've gone to bed. Although, for my mental health, that's starting to change again, where I am becoming a little bit more strict with my time so that I use my time a bit more productively. So I'm trying not to work as much at night so that I have it's hard because, you do need downtime where you're not working or you're not, doing things around the house. So, I'm definitely managing my time a lot more. The other thing I think which is really important, I wish I had have done a bit earlier, was hire a VA. A lot of people say that they can't afford one, but even if you just hire someone for 3 hours a day to do the tasks that you don't need to be doing, I think it makes a really big difference to everything, to your mental health, to your business, to your family. Your time is very valuable, and emailing customers, calling customers, placing the orders and that sort of thing just isn't something that you need to be doing even at the start. I think, I would definitely say have an allowance there for a VA for anyone starting. So that's probably about it for that.
Yeah, cool. So there's a bunch of stuff there that I think was interesting. So you mentioned that in those back of the those earlier stages, your husband would come home from work and sort of take over. And I think for me, that's been a big part of how I've been able to manage it. Is I have a partner who's kind of come along for the ride, in the sense that she supports me time wise and things like that. And I think that's a really important thing to making that work. I mean, obviously, this doesn't help you if you're a single parent or something like that necessarily, but I think a big part of being successful in business while raising children, particularly when they're in their younger years and they're a lot more hands-on, is being pretty open with your partner and making them kind of enabling them to come along for the ride, making sure they understand what's happening in the business.
Yep, definitely.
Why you need that time, what you're doing. Is that something you'd agree with?
I think I definitely, but not just for the side of your time, but also, I'm sure John, and everyone that runs a business, it can be very stressful. The good times are great, but the down times are very stressful, and you need that support because it can be a very lonely place, having your own business. So I think having, whether it's even a partner or just having someone there in that you can talk to about it. So that's kind of another part. But yeah, I think having someone that you can chat to when running a business, whether it's someone in a similar position as you, like there's Anastasia who's in dropshipping in America, and her and I chat quite a bit. We're both mums. We both have more than one e-commerce store, so we're in a similar place. We can chat to each other, and it really helps. So I guess, having someone that you can chat to that's in a similar position to you actually makes a very big difference, I think, as well.
Yeah.
If that makes
sense. Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And you mentioned that you're starting to pay a bit more attention to, I think you said, using your time productively or something along those lines.
Yes.
How's that sort of working out for you, and what are you working on specifically there, or what are you focusing on to sort of, do you have any things that you're doing or any sort of strategies to make sure you're using your time more productively?
Well, my phone doesn't have anything on it, so no Shopify, no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram. Not that I'm on Instagram, but no Instagram. So that when I'm out of the house, I'm
Yeah.
out from the house. I'm not, the only thing is I have iMessage so that my staff can still contact me, which, I went away for nearly 4 weeks, so I had to be still contactable while I was away. But I think really removing yourself from the business when you're outside of your work. And it is also hard when you work from home because, you're there all the time. But also I would put the big kids to bed and Daniel and I would sit down to watch a TV show and I'd be on my computer and he'd be like, are you even watching? And I'm like, yeah. And I wouldn't be. So now, like when we watch a TV show, I actually watch it. So it helps when you watch a TV show with subtitles because you actually have to watch the screen. So things like that, it actually, I've noticed, has made a really big difference in the last few weeks. When I do get my time to work, I just get a lot more done and I'm a lot more productive. So
Yeah, awesome. And
then
I'm
you
the
enjoy
same.
your time off too, I think, when you have it. And I don't work weekends anymore. They're my weekends.
Yeah. And you've obviously been in this for the long haul. At this point, it's been quite a few years since you started, running your businesses, and I think, it's good to hear you mentioning like looking after your mental health and that sort of thing. I think it's something that almost everybody I talk to in the beginning, it totally kind of gets neglected, not like on purpose, but it just kind of happens that your business creeps in more and more and more and takes up more and more time, and as you said, you can get quite obsessed about it. So I think taking that time out and having a few other things that you do just to look after your brain
and be disciplined with that. And
be disciplined. It's so important. I think that's been a big thing for me as well the last few years. Is I think I went through a few years where it's sort of between business and children there was nothing else. That was like everything, and it just really started to suck.
It's like you don't have a life outside of it's all very
and that wasn't an intentional thing. It's just sort of like it gradually happened over time, without you even noticing, and then one day you're like, oh man, what's going on here? This is actually not as much fun as I was hoping it would be when I first got started. So for anyone who's listening who's not at that point yet, you've got to sort of pay attention to this, because your business kind of taking over your life and things like that, it kind of creeps up on you sometimes when you don't even realize it's happening. So being mindful and actually finding ways that you can regular, not necessarily long periods of time, but regularly just be making sure you're doing something else, with taking them out, whatever that means for you, is a really important thing for your longevity in business.
But I think it's good for your business anyway. I always find whenever I have a break, I actually come up with more ideas. Everything becomes a bit clearer. It's it's almost like I go on a holiday and I just come up with all these really good ideas. Like I have all this clarity. So it's definitely not, you're not going to lose time on your business or anything like that, especially if you've got VAs running everything. It's really important to have that time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's absolutely right. So something I do is I go for a walk every day, right? Like just get outside, health, all that sort of thing. I usually listen to an audio book or something like that. Usually I do that at night after the kids have gone to bed, because that's, the only time that I have available to do that. But that's like I get all of my ideas when I'm doing that. Like, you know what I mean? So if I didn't do that and I was just stuck in front of my computer for most of the day or doing something with the kids, I never have business ideas when I'm parenting either.
I agree. No, you don't.
I try to focus on to focus on the kids, you know what I mean? As you should. But if I didn't take that time to do something else, and sometimes the same thing happens, if I'll be floating around out about something. If I didn't do that, like I think I'd stagnate in business, because I just wouldn't, I wouldn't have any ideas. I'd just keep doing the same thing. And so yeah, I agree. That's when I get my best ideas, when I'm not doing anything, not working. Yeah. When I'm completely away from business. So you're absolutely right. I think that's another benefit of making sure you have that time for your brain to sort of run a bit loose.
Yes.
And discover new things.
Yep.
Awesome. So you went from eBay, selling on eBay, importing and selling on eBay, and you went into drop shipping.
Yes.
Which is a bit of a change. So now you're on your own website, doing your own marketing, all that sort of thing. Why the change?
Well, I was actually going to start manufacturing my own products. So not just private label, where I actually design it's a product that already exists, but completely changing it and making it unique. But I realized I needed a lot of money for that and a lot of time. And so I was wanting something that I didn't have to do physically. So I did start looking at Amazon, in America, but then a friend of mine started drop shipping in Australia, and she was doing quite well. So I decided that was my reasoning for starting drop shipping, is that it didn't cost a lot of money to sort of get it going and running and that sort of thing. So you still need money, but it's not as much as what private label, importing from.
Yep. There's not that upfront cost. Well, not as much of an upfront cost. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. And so that was in 2017. So we're, I guess, close to 4 years. 4 years down the track, and you're still at least in part drop shipping.
Yes.
So that's the experience in that. I mean, there's a lot of people try drop shipping out, but very few people, I think, sort of are still around 3, 4, 5 years plus later. What's your secret tips for success, Carla?
When I started, I said in my mind, I was like, this will work no matter what. And there has been many times when I've wanted to quit. And even Daniel will say to me, I still can't believe you haven't stopped. There's been some really bad moments. And you very rarely hear about people's bad moments. You hear about all the positive things on Facebook and around you. And so you're kind of like, it's just me. But it's not. I mean, everyone goes through it. And so I was just very adamant that I wanted this to work. I've got a goal I have goals that I want to achieve. And the reason for starting, which was not to go to I didn't want to go back to a job. I want to be there for my kids when they get home from school, and want to go to all their after school activities and go to all their school activities, do parent helping, go away every school holidays. That's one of my biggest goals. So, in the back of my mind, I'm like, if I want to achieve all those things, this has to work. So yeah, I mean, it's been very hard work. I haven't, it hasn't been easy. It is very hard work. And but I mean, yeah, and I don't give up. I've done your course, I've done lots of other courses, and you always learn something. So yeah, that's my tips.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, look, I love it, and it's like every time I talk to somebody on this show and I ask that kind of question, nobody ever says, "Oh, I'm successful because I discovered this marketing hack or this trick or this thing."
No,
it's
that's
always
right.
I just committed to doing something and making it work no matter what. You've got a really strong why you're doing it, right? I mean, doing it for your kids so you don't have to go back to work, which is pretty much the same as mine at this point, to be honest. Or at least in part. And I think that really is a massive, when you're a solo entrepreneur and you're building something from scratch, I think that really is one of the biggest things. It's not having some secret product or some marketing strategy that nobody else knows about, because one, those things don't exist anyway. It's really just about having the commitment and just continuing to follow through even when you get stuck. And I think you're right. A lot of people don't talk about the things that really suck, or the problems that you have. So I'm gonna put you on the spot on that. What's one of the worst things that's happened to you?
Oh, it's embarrassing, the stuff that's happened. So at the
If
very
you don't mind sharing, I'm putting you on the
No,
spot.
I
This
don't
is
mind,
completely
but
unprepared
it
for
is
Carla.
embarrassing.
Tell us,
So
share something.
I think it was my second year, and we'd had quite a good year. I mean, in dropshipping, and we weren't tracking our invoices or anything. We were very disorganized, and I had quite a few VAs, and so we came to a few months, and we were like, we didn't realize we owed our supply is a lot of money, like tens of thousands of dollars. So that was very stressful. And I remember Daniel was saying, I just think you should just quit. Like, this is too hard. And I was like, I'm not quitting. I'm like, where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm like, the issue wasn't the sales. It was just the issue was that we weren't organized. And I find every 4 to 6 months, there's always a major issue that we come across. And I think that happens with growth. Everyone is always looking to grow, but with growth comes a lot of problems. It's great getting a lot of sales. The last 12 months, the growth has been unbelievable. Like, I think for one of my stores, the growth was like 600 or 700% from the year before, and the other store was not far off that. So, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's amazing! You must be so happy." I'm like, "Oh, I've never been so stressed in my life. Like, it has been so stressful. Like a lot of sleepless nights. So I've had to do a lot of, and we've hired a lot of VAs. Like, our staff's tripled in the last 6 months. So,
Yep.
And we made a lot of mistakes. And it's, you have to really admit that you've made mistakes and you have to improve. But we're still here. We're still going. But I can see why a lot of people would have stopped. Like, it has been very stressful. But like they say, anything worth it is never easy. Like, it's hard. And it's, for me, I think managing my stress is probably the biggest thing that I need to overcome. I mean, I am getting a lot better. Like, you always seem very, relaxed. And so it makes, I think, oh, he must never get stressed. Because sometimes I'm just like, oh, I don't know how people do this, pulling my hair out. And I grew up, and I think my parents always had a business. Daniel's parents have always had businesses. So we've both grown up knowing that business is very stressful. So we kind of know that, but it's still really, it's scary. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, look, I mean, yes, I think I do have a calm exterior, but I mean, I'm the same. I still have sleepless nights. Sometimes,
it's good to know. Sorry, but I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's not just you, Carl. I don't think I've ever met a single business owner, or no matter what the size of their business, that would say, I'm never worried about anything. I've never had moments where I'm anxious, where I'm stressed, where I'm frustrated, where I'm, worried about what's going to happen next. Yeah. Never. It's just part and parcel, and you've got to kind of accept that. Recognize it when it happens. Like, it's going to happen. You can't sort of block it or stop it from happening. It's more just about, I think, getting comfortable with it happening and having the strategies to deal with it when it does happen, right? Yep. To sort of manage it.
100%.
Because I don't think you can ever truly be, free of that. It's just part of being a human. It's part of running a business. And I think you're right. It's just some people. Often the difference between people is just some people maybe have, more developed strategies for dealing with emotions or feelings than others, and that may be the difference between some people sticking with it longer than other people. So I think that's why doing that sort of personal work to identify, things or ways that you can manage those thoughts, feelings, emotions, whatever.
And there's actual things you can do to help reduce it, like with VAs and stuff like that, and not ignoring problems. Who was telling me the other day? I was chatting to someone, Anastasia, and she said she was listening to a podcast or reading a book, and it said buffaloes, I think it was, they run to a storm, to the eye of the storm, so that the storm is over quicker than if you were just to stand there and wait. And I was like, wow, that is just what I needed to hear, because it's true. Like, we all kind of go, we know that this nightmare is approaching us, and most of the time we just like go, put our head in the sand and try and ignore it. But the key is to actually deal with it straight away, and it's over quicker, and then you can move on to the next problem.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, that's a good analogy, metaphor, whatever. Another one I like that's similar to that is Brian Tracy's thing of he says, just go and eat the frog, right? Eating a frog's disgusting, it's unpleasant, but eat the frog as soon as you can.
You can,
Get it
yeah.
over with, because you're going to eat it sooner or later. So just get it over with. I think that's definitely good. So you're saying, one of your businesses grew 600 to 700% in a year, which is massive. That's a lot, right? And you were experiencing some growing pains, as of course you would when you have that much growth. What were some of the growing pains that you experienced, and what are you doing to sort of
probably
deal
one of
with
the biggest ones was customer service. Was we just had, like, it's processing of the orders was pretty much no issue in terms of our staff, but customer service, with a lot more order comes a lot more, customer service requirements post-purchase, and just updating customers on information and that sort of thing. So we really got behind the ball with that, and so I think a lot of, we had a lot of issues dealing with that, which we're now on top of. But that's just one, area that we weren't managing. What else? I mean, there's heaps of things. Just trying to think. I mean, it's probably all quite similar in that, with the growth comes, like now we've got someone that does basically, she's based in the Philippines, so she's actually an accountant over there. So she does all our bookwork. So like she manages all the invoice, and I'd never really thought of that. Like, it was just my main VA who'd be like, you need to go pay this, you need to go pay that. So this girl works nearly full time managing, every supplier, every, payment that we need to make sure the invoices match and everything like that. And we weren't doing that before. So, there were a lot of errors which we weren't picking up and that sort of thing. So you just don't realize with growth, there's so many other things that need to be managed. And really, until you're in it, you don't know, because I'm assuming every business is different. And we have a lot of, I know with dropshipping, a lot of the time you pay as soon as the customer places the order, which in a lot of ways is probably the easiest way to manage it. But then we have a lot of accounts with a lot of our suppliers now. So, we have massive amounts of money that are going through every day. So, just those sort of, if that makes sense, like just those sort of things I found, we just got really in it, over our heads. And I was just like, this is, And so we've hired more staff, we've split the roles, made, a customer service team that, so we've got 2 full-time customer service. All they do is answer the phone and answer emails. That's all they do. And then we have 2 people that all they do is place orders. And we have someone that does a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they know what they do. Writing up processes, even just for really simple, like if a customer wants to return an item, like having questions that you ask that customer so that we can get more information. And, just, it was different when you're not getting as many orders. It'd be a lot easier for them just to come to you, say, what should I do? But when you're, when you've got that happening 30 times a day, they can't ask me 30 times a day what to do. It's, so does that make sense, what I've said?
Yeah, totally. It sounds like a lot of the solutions to the growing pains for you has been sort of growing your team, or maybe giving more definition to your team, if you like. And so, and look, I mean, it's the same for any business. I think, one of the things you have to do to grow, or as you grow, is of course bring in great people, into your business to, do the things that you can't do yourself, or that you shouldn't do yourself. And that's going to be, I think, the case for any business. But how's that? So, I mean, I know you've been sort of a team or people working with you for some time now. How's your process for like finding the right person sort of evolved over time? And do you do anything in particular now to sort of, like, what does it look like?
Facebook group for VAs based in the Philippines, and I do a really long job description, and I can't remember where I heard this, but I can't remember who it was, and I put questions throughout the job description, and anyone that doesn't refer to me as my name, in their cover letter that doesn't answer the questions, I delete it straight away, because I don't want people that aren't paying attention. And then to be honest, I just interview them all in the one day. It's really exhausting. And I don't know if I'm just really good with picking up, but I really pick really good people. Like with the interview, I get a really good feel for them. We really haven't had any major issues with any of our VAs. They've all been really good. That's another problem, I think, too. When you grow your team, your VAs, that managing your team becomes a job in itself. That's something that's another job. Everyone has their own struggles. And even though, they're working from home, everyone has their own struggles. So, you're kind of dealing with work, but then you're also dealing with their personal, whatever's going on in their life as well. So that's pretty much it. I don't really make it super complicated. I know a lot of people do these things where they make them tests and stuff like that. I ask those questions a lot in the job description, and they have to answer them. But we haven't really had any issues with anyone majorly.
Okay. So what are you looking at for? So I think you're right. I think, and it's true for some people. Some people, I think, are just, I don't know what the right word to describe it is, but I think I'm a bit the same, where I can just pick up quite easily, like with people, what they're going to be like to work with. Like I don't know, so when people ask me, well, what are all the processes you go through? I'm like, well, yeah, I ask some questions, I listen to the answers, and I kind of just know sometimes. You know what I mean? I find it hard to explain, like, what exactly it is that tells me that person's good. And some people are different, though. They have a much more sort of structured process, and that's what they need to find the right person. I don't think it's a wrong or right answer, but
I think it also, your personality determines what type of person you need. Like, you and I are probably very similar in that we're a bit, I hope you don't take offense to this, but like we're a bit more, I wouldn't say I'm an easygoing person, but a little bit more, we just kind of go with what's happening and just go from there. Whereas a few people I know are like so specific about what they want, like really detailed, and they really want certain, like there's no room for, which is fine. Like they're very detail orientated. Whereas, like I just find someone that I get along with that I can train. Do you know what I mean? That's, does that make sense? And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like you're probably a little bit similar like that. Like, I also let my VAs determine, like their main role might be customer service, but then I might say, what have you got an interest in? If they've got a bit of an interest in design, I might give them a few jobs every week to do design work because that's something they're interested in. So, you can get more out of people if you work with them rather than just tell them what you need. Like, does that make sense? Do you think you're similar to that?
Yeah, I'm similar to that. I think very much my style is to identify people that I can work with rather than try and test them so much on their experience or their skills. So, for example, I hired a woman just the other day to join my copywriting team. So, we write a lot of product descriptions and things like that. So I work with a team of people that do that for me and for my clients. And she'd applied for the job, but she had no experience whatsoever. Right? She'd never written product copy before, but like I could just, I could tell from, because I do like a voice interview and a written interview as well, sort of thing. So that for that sort of role, if their job is going to be typing stuff up, I get them to type stuff up, right? And reply to me in that way. And I could tell from how she was typing that she had like just this fantastic command of the English language, right? She was awesome at expressing herself in the written sense. Her grammar, everything was absolutely perfect. And I was asking her really off the wall kind of questions that she couldn't have prepared a written response for, right? It's completely impossible. So she was typing it, and I do it on Skype, so I can see they're actually typing it in and things like that, right? So, and she's, and then I spoke to her, and because she had no experience, so I wanted to talk to her, and she's a really lovely person. And I thought, she was really eager to learn and all of that sort of thing, and really self-aware, which, these are some of the things I look for. Like, are they open to learning? Are they self-aware? That sort of thing. And so I just thought, man, I can teach somebody how to write product copy the way I want it. Like I have a course. I put all of my employees through a course on how to do this. So I hired her. I was like, man, I've got to have this person on my team. I don't care. She's going to be a bit slow in the beginning, but she's got the experience. To me, didn't matter because, or did she know how to write in my specific way from the start? No, that doesn't matter because she's the right person for me. And she had the attributes that I knew would make her good at that job. All I have to do is provide her some training, show her the way, and she'll be. I mean, she started and she's doing, as I thought, a pretty good job. She's a bit slow in the beginning, but the quality of her works so far is very good. So, but yeah, I think, I'm similar to you. I very much look for just, is this person going to sort of complement my style of business?
I agree.
Like they've got to be, rather than, some people get very focused, I think, on looking at what has this person done in the past and all of that stuff. And it's you still have to ask about that stuff and you still want to look at that, but
But I find if I find someone that hasn't necessarily got experience, you're then hiring someone that is going to learn new skills, and they appreciate that because those skills will get them another job if for some reason, they leave or, you have to let them go. I find that they really, most people want to learn new skills if that's, not everyone, but some people do. So I find they really appreciate the fact that you're teaching them new skills and valuable skills. So, like that's the other side too. Like it's not always about you winning. It's about, you both winning. You want,
Oh yeah.
That makes them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a big thing. I think when you're going through that purchase process of whether you do it in the interview or in writing or something, I mean, you do have to think about how the work or the job or the position or whatever is going to be good for them as well as you. And like you have to be able to explain that to somebody as well.
That's right.
And once again, I think people when they're first starting out with hiring VAs and that sort of thing probably don't think about that so much. And I think it's sometimes easy because, usually those people are very distant. They're remote from you. There's a bit more of a potentially a level of disconnection than if they're obviously sitting in the room right next to you. And I think people fall into the trap of treating those people maybe not quite like their people. Do you know what I mean? Not thinking about their needs and what they're looking to get out of it.
Real employees. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I always say to people, if you're hiring somebody, think about times when you've been hired. What do you like? What would you look for in a job? What would you expect when somebody's hiring you, and provide somebody with that same experience? I think that's often a good measure to get that stuff right. Cool, awesome. So, you've been dropshipping for a while, and now you've kind of gone back again, and you're importing products from overseas to sell, which you added to kind of started selling through your dropshipping site. And I remember you telling me about when you first started doing this again, more recently, which I thought was a great story. You were faced with a problem and you found the solution to it. Can you?
Was that really big order?
Yeah, is that really big order? Can you sort of tell that story a little bit?
Yeah.
I love this story.
I had a customer contact me. It was probably 18 months ago now, wanting to order 2,000 products of the one product. And, I knew that no supplier in Australia would be able to fulfill 2,000, let alone maybe 300. So I had to go to China. I found a supplier that could the actual manufacturer for this product. And this manufacturer actually manufactured for one of the biggest stores in Australia that sells this product. And so I had to, I had to place an order for 2,000, and I had to put my cash up front. I think I got like a $2,000 deposit. And I did get the money. It was a charity that made the purchase.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, it was stressful at the start because I was just a bit unsure. Well, to be honest, I mean, like they already asked another business. I said, no, we can't find 2,000, so we can't do it. And I was just like, no, we can help you. It's fine. I was just like, I just said yes and thought I'll worry about it later. I'm not letting this opportunity go. And it took about 6 months because then Corona hit and everything was
Right.
delayed.
Yeah.
And so it was meant to arrive in, I think it was February of last year, and it didn't end up. They didn't end up coming until May. But it all worked, and so it went really well. And it was very lucky because that sale really helped with COVID last year, because I was then in a position where when Scott Morrison, which is the Prime Minister of Australia, shut down the country, sales on e-commerce stores went insane. And I remember it was a Sunday that he shut the country down, and that night I was on Alibaba placing large orders for products because I could see that our suppliers had already sold out for a lot of the products. So I placed quite a few large orders and started selling them on pre-orders, and they all sold out within like 3 days. And so that's what kind of started getting me back into importing. And the way that I go now with importing is a couple of different ways, probably a bit random. So any products or collection pages that I rank really highly for, I will import product. Or just products that I can see that there's, like an opportunity, basically. Like I think when you're drop shipping, you can see what is missing in a product or what's missing in the market in general. Or you can say, I can actually sell that, or I can package that product a lot better. And then, or like, for example, I'm actually importing a product which I don't sell, but I give as a free gift with really large purchases. And that made a huge difference to last year. So like, I ordered 500, I think, of this one product. And it's a decent sized product. Like I think they cost me like $50 or $60 each. But we sold all of them. So we've got to order some more. Because as a free gift, people just love that. So, and that was, we're the only people in Australia selling that as a free gift. So, and it worked really well with those products. So then, like I just think, if you have some money to test, you don't need to order a lot, but can make a really big difference. And the thing when you're importing is that you have a lot more money, what do you call it, to spend on ads, because your profit margin's a lot more than drop shipping. So
So what sort of margin are you seeing there, just so people can get an idea for the drop shippers who are watching and they're used to their drop shipping margins? What do you?
Well, Americans probably, the guys from the US are like, well, they're our margins anyway, but probably 40 to 60%.
Okay.
So
40 to 60% on the products you import. I mean, I talk to tons and tons of high ticket drop shippers who are selling locally sourced products. And most people there are between sort of 10 and 25% margin. I mean, that's a really substantial difference, a significant difference. Sure.
Yeah. And that's not selling, like that's selling in the middle price. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's different, I sell one product I sell is the exact same as one of my suppliers. It's just that the color's different. And one supplier has it at, I think it's like $269. Another supplier has it at $399, and I'm at $279 or something, $289, and I'm still getting that profit margin. So, I'm not selling at the most expensive, or I mean, not quite the cheapest, but so I think you can. There's definitely more margin, like it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And so, Look, getting back into it this time, the importing was kind of sounds like it was a bit more of an organic, like it just happened
Yeah,
because you had a
it
problem
did.
you needed to solve it. You said, yes, I'll solve that without knowing how you were going to solve it, which,
Yep.
by the way, I think for anybody listening, that is a great way to come at problems. Whenever you've got a customer who says, can you do this for me? Just say yes and work it out later.
That's right.
I'm a bit the same, and sometimes that'll be a bit of a hairy process, but in the process of doing that, of working out how you're going to fulfill that, I think it's a great thing to go through, and it can uncover you business opportunities that you may not have been prepared to look at otherwise. Because sometimes once you commit to doing something for somebody, you're kind of then driven to solving that problem in a way that you weren't before you made that commitment. So I think that's really cool. Now, somebody did ask me to ask you on this live how. Yeah, people knew it was happening. Look, a lot of people who watch this, who listen to this, will be people who are in the dropshipping space, right? Because that's where a lot of my people are, and high ticket dropshipping or sort of middle price. And for pretty much everybody in that space, the thought of getting their own product in at some point crosses their minds, right? But very few people actually go and do it, right? You're one of the few people that's done it. And so, but people always have a lot of questions. I think part of the reason most people don't do it is obviously a bit fear-based. There's some higher level of commitment there than what they're used to dealing with. But how do you mentioned it before, you kind of mentioned how you identify the products that you want to look at bringing in on your own, but or for yourself, but how do you go out then and find a place? How do you source it?
Well, I mean, I just use Alibaba because that's like the easiest way, and all the manufacturers are on there pretty much. I mean, I've seen some, manufacturers for, I'm trying to think of products that I've found that aren't in my niche, either of my niches, and I can identify. Okay, I'll give you an example. So we're building a new house and we want to get leather recliners for our new house, and they're very expensive to buy in Australia. Yeah. And I had a look, and I can find the exact supplier for who supplies one of the products at Plush, which is they sell leather recliners in Australia. And like the price that you can get them, like they're the exact same. Like I found this, like one of their photos they've obviously used, and it's exactly the same couch. There's a lot of crap on Ali. When I say crap, not crap, but there's a lot of, I guess in a way they're drop shippers because they're actually drop shipping from the manufacturer direct. So, and it's not necessarily a bad way to, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yep.
So they sell the product from the manufacturer, but they can get smaller quantities. Whereas generally, if you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, they want big, large, like with that order that I had for 2,000, their minimum order was 500. So, for some people, they don't want to order 500 or something because that's a bigger risk. And, that might just sit in a warehouse for 6 to 12 months because you're not going to sell, you may not sell all of them straight away. So you do tend to, I can't remember what these companies are called, but they're, it's just basically someone working for themselves, and they just sell you products and then they deal with the manufacturer. So you pay slightly more, but I do use some of them because I didn't want to order large quantities of some products. But you just really have to search. There's lots of different ways on Alibaba. You can put in like a buying request and then they contact you. But I just literally spent hours going through manufacturers for that type of product. Like you might go through 100 and you'll eventually start to notice which ones are the manufacturers and which ones aren't. And it really depends on how much you want to spend or how much you want to order. And, if you want to order something that's actually different, you will have to order larger quantities. And you'll generally go through the manufacturer. But if you're just happy to order, in private, stick your own label on a box, then you could just go through anyone that will, basically, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I know something that people worry about when they're going through this process is of course, quality. and I see this product on, like, let's say I'm looking on Alibaba and I can see all these people that say they manufacture this product, or they can source this product or whatever. Have you, like, one, is that something people need to be concerned about? And have you got any ways that you sort of identify, whether, that it's a good seller to buy it from?
So sometimes I will order a product as a test, just to check it and that sort of thing. So when I did that large order of 2,000, I got a couple of samples for a few reasons. One, it's because I was like, well, this is a very big order. I don't want to stuff it up. And two, we were actually, that manufacturer actually said that you had to get the sample because they weren't going to produce the large order unless you were happy with the sample that they produced for you, because we had changed it. So in the end, our customer, I designed it and the customer made a few changes. But certain things I've been able to find, like there's products that I found the supply for, they sell mainly in the UK, and I found the actual manufacturer for that product. So I didn't order, I just ordered the lot, and they have been amazing quality because I could see the reviews in the UK for these exact products, and the reviews I'm getting are amazing. I would say, I'm a little bit of a risk taker, and I just do and think about it later. I would say most people should probably get a sample first, just so that you aren't too stressed. When COVID hit, and I placed those large orders, I didn't get samples. I didn't have time. Like, it was either, and I was lucky that I made the decision that I did, because after that, it was like a 4 to 6 month wait for any products. So, but that's very rare, and that probably won't happen again. So, but yeah, I would definitely recommend get a few samples from a few different suppliers. But I really haven't had an issue with, I think it's more AliExpress that you have issues with. You see those things on Facebook where, you think you're ordering that big plane and it comes this little thing and stuff like that. And also remember, you pay for what you get. Like, I find with the Chinese, when I've dealt with the suppliers, they'll be like, that's the lowest I can go. And there might be a price variance, but I actually find that the quality is the reason why. Like, I actually really trust them. Probably sounds really weird, but I find them to be very honest. And if they tell you something, it's always pretty much been the truth. Like, they don't, maybe I'm just naive. I don't think I am, because the quality, you have to realize that if you try and save an extra $5, you're probably not going to get the same quality. So, they're making money off you, not off the one purchase. They want you to be a long-term customer. So, they probably don't make any money off your first purchase. It's the consequence, or the purchases after that as well. So, yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. It does make sense. And look, I absolutely think, you need to check these things as much as you can, like get samples. And I think that's a good idea. But yeah, I think once again, I think people get into the trap of thinking that, companies that are selling stuff like on Alibaba or something like that are for some reason not going to be legitimate. It's like, there's not really any founded reason why you would think that. I mean, there's going to be the odd dodgy company, but there's dodgy companies everywhere. There's dodgy companies in the US, based in the US. There's dodgy companies based in Australia, Like, I mean, if anything, they've got, it's an incredibly competitive space over there as well.
That's right.
For a lot of products. Like, they've got to do a good job to keep taking orders through those platforms.
Right.
So it's it's as much in their interest to give you a good experience and try and meet your needs as much as possible as it is for you with your own customers in your own country.
That's right. Yep.
You're kind of, in some senses, while they're manufacturing, if you're an e-commerce person here, you're meeting somebody who's doing the same thing, just in a slightly different way. They have a lot of the same pressures as you. They're in the same position as you. They're just, And
I find even all their after sale customer service has been amazing. Like, because my products are stored in a third party warehouse. So, I mean, it's about a 25-minute drive from my house. But I'll be like, hey, how much does this product weigh without packaging? Like, they literally constantly giving me all the information that I need, like months after I purchase. I've had really no bad experiences with any of my suppliers, and I'm probably using like 8 or 9 different suppliers at the moment. So I just think, always obviously risk what you can. It is a risk, but like anything, it's a risk. It's just how, and if you're drop shipping and a product sells well, then, I mean, you're already eliminating such a huge risk from, I kind of feel like drop shipping and then importing is, it's, what do you call it? And then you will, like, I've paid a copywriter to go and write my descriptions, and they make a very big difference. So like,
I think, it is a fairly natural progression. And that's one of the great things about dropshipping is you have the opportunity to identify what people want to buy without the big financial commitment upfront, bigger financial commitments. And I think it's certainly something that people should move to. I think for a lot of people, depending on what they're selling, particularly if they're in the high ticket space, importing maybe some high ticket products might not be feasible just based on their nature and the complexity of the product, because some are more complex than others, and it may be harder to find a direct manufacturer for that. But even if that's the case, like, think about what are the supporting products for that product. Like, sort of, so if your main product is a $4,000 product that you're selling at retail for, and maybe that's hard for you to import in any numbers or even find a manufacturer for it, what are some $200, $300, $400 products that go along with that one that sort of support
100%.
that you could import? Because they'll be much simpler products. It'll be much easier to find those manufacturers overseas, import those, and as Carla did, give them away as a free gift with the main product for a massive competitive difference.
Massive,
or
like
just sell them, upsell, whatever, with that main product, and take the margin, the better margin that you get with them. And that can literally pay for your advertising. It can pay for all your marketing to do that, right? So there's huge opportunities here. And like Carla said, I mean, there's opportunities to import stuff in lower quantities often. So don't think that you're going to have to import thousands of little products, right? I mean, you can often find opportunities where you can get maybe 100, 200, something like that. And that can be a much more an easier to manage proposition than I think some people thinking they're going to have to put up $50,000 or something to get those wet in this area. It's really not. It's not the case. And there's a little bit of risk there. But hey, I always say if you import something, and this has happened to me, right? So in my very first dropshipping site, I ended up importing things from Hong Kong for my lighting site, crystal chandeliers and things like that. Little ones, not the big ones. But I brought in some that didn't sell as well as I thought they would. I just sold them at cost price.
Yep, that's right.
When I sold them when I advertised them at cost price, they flew off the shelves. So I didn't lose any money.
And another thing we do is I call the customers that order our products and say, this is a new product range. I'm just curious to see, and they look, I don't think we've had any negative feedback, and then they leave more feedback. So, I'm not going to do that for my suppliers' products, but I'll do it for mine.
Hey, look, that works too. So I think, I mean, if all else fails, you get a bit more active with your selling of the product if it's not moving and you want to recoup that cost, and you'll find ways, list it on Gumtree, list it on eBay, whatever. You can get rid of anything and get your money back if you really need to, I find. But that's awesome. Cool. So what about you mentioned you're using a 3PL place. What's the fulfillment look like, and any tips around that? So in terms of getting it from the manufacturer to you, to the customer.
So I have a friend, and he works in a what are they called? They do the organize all the shipping. What's it called? Like a freight forwarder and a I can't think. I've gone blank. So he I was like chatting to him and he was like, oh, we can do all that for you. So, I mean, I think they're all the same. I don't think there's any difference. They basically just book spots on ships for you and bring it over and they organize all the customs and everything. Like, I think some people do it themselves. I don't have the energy to worry about stuff like that. And then it goes directly to my 3PL. They pack everything. And then when we get an order, we manually send it through. We do everything ourselves. So the 3PL could organise the shipping, but because our items are probably the largest items that they sell, so they're not really dealing with massive products. Their products are a bit smaller than ours. And so we like to manage the shipping ourselves because we can obviously be a lot more competitive, because we've got so many different courier companies and stuff. And then we just send them the con notes and they stick it on. I'll be honest, we had a lot of issues with our 3PL last year. We had 200 of a product coming in, they're all sold on pre-orders, and 50 of them, they sent the wrong products to the wrong customers. And we're talking about really heavy, expensive products.
Wow.
And so they actually had to pay. That was a very big error on their behalf, but the customer service was just a nightmare. People were so angry. But now, I mean, we've come through the other end and they're amazing. I don't think they've made a mistake all through Christmas. No errors. Really good. So I think, but they're not a huge 3PL. And I prefer that. So I chat, I text and call the girls that work there. We've got on Slack, we've got our own channel with them in it. And they're very much I can ring and say, hey, can you just go and measure this for me or whatever? They do all that sort of stuff. The other thing which has been really good for us is one of our suppliers has stopped letting us use our own courier for their products, which has really stuffed us up because their shipping is very expensive. So, but they do allow us to send to our warehouse. So we also send a lot of their products to our warehouse and then just get it collected and sent to the customer, which is annoying, but it still has helped us save a lot of orders and stuff like that. So, yeah,
and I think that's sort of one of the side benefits you get if you're drop shipping and you start using a 3PL, which for people who don't understand that's a third-party logistics company. They manage a warehouse, products in there, and they just ship it out for you. Is it sometimes when you're drop shipping and you're working with local suppliers, some of them will say, no, we won't ship direct to your customers, but if you have a warehouse, we'll send it to your warehouse, right? Which is such a stupid response because what's the difference? But anyway, I see that all the time. My team does a lot of supplier calls and we get that quite a bit, usually from brands that you really want to sell because they've got great products, right? And so they're very big and that sort of thing. Well, if you're working with a 3PL, that's sometimes a fix to that problem. You can say, all right, we got a warehouse, just send it to this 3PL warehouse. Yes, the cost is a little bit more because you've got a double handling there, but it can end up being that you get that supplier on board, you make a lot more sales in total, and you still make money. So I think that's another side benefit of having that relationship there.
Oh, definitely. Yep.
What do you do packaging-wise? Are you putting your branding on anything at this point?
Yes. So my brand. So I've created separate brands for each store. So because I thought that could eventually become a business within itself. Yep. I haven't actually created the website for these brands yet, which is on our to-do list. So that'll eventually be, they'll be their own brand, will sell on their own website, but they're all branded and it's not it's under a different brand. So we've done that I haven't put product names on anything because I've just had a lot of customers say that they don't want people knowing what they've ordered for lots of different reasons. Right. I think less likely stuff gets stolen when there's no information about what's actually inside the box. So I've just got SKU numbers on there. Our brand is on there. I think that's, and the weight and size of the box, stuff that we have to have on there. But other than that, no product names. That was something that most people do put product names on their box, but I've not done that.
Okay. Yep. So just to go back a step, so you're creating like a brand for each of the individual products.
No.
You're bringing
So for one store, I've created a brand for all the products that I import for that,
right.
store.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's different to the branding that appears like for the overall site, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Now, I think that's a really good idea. And once again, for anybody who's thinking of getting into this space, it's a good idea. I mean, you can go both ways. You can brand it up the same as your existing site, or you can create a new brand. The advantage of creating a new brand is that if those products really take off, you can actually sell that brand and keep
right.
your original business, right? And that's obviously what you're thinking of. And there are people who they make businesses out of doing this. They'll have one business that they used to sell all their products through, but they brand categories of products or individual products. And when they build them up into a bigger thing, then they just sell just the products, the individual products or categories of products off with their own brands. And you have the ability to do that without having to sell your whole business, just to sell those individual products off. So, yeah, I think that's a really smart thing to do if you're going to get into this space. So we've got a couple of questions here that people have asked. Carla, you're so popular. Darren asked, what is one thing you think you didn't focus much on starting out that you wish you would have? So take that as either you can take that either as a e-commerce in general or a more specific to maybe drop shipping or importing.
Probably organic traffic.
Yes. Yes.
God, I wish I had started that 4 years ago. Oh my God. Yes, definitely organic traffic, like work on your organic from the start. Like, although that being said, if I hadn't spent time learning about Google ads and that, like you kind of need that too, but I think you just need a split 50-50. Like, do you know what I mean? It's I think that was something I needed to do from the start, which I really didn't. And then I actually hired an SEO company, I could get really confused with the years, 2019, pretty much the whole year. And I spent something like 18,000 Australian dollars over the 12 months on them. And they really didn't do a lot. Whereas I started what you had taught us, John, maybe middle of last year, like I was really delayed. And like I've tripled my organic traffic in 6 months, basically. I guess because my site was already quite old, it just needed a bit of going to really get going, if that makes sense. But I'll update a product description and I notice within 2 or 3 months I'm already ranking in the top 20, for keywords and stuff. So it's really not taking long now. But yeah, I definitely recommend that everyone should. That's something that I'd be focusing on if I started a new store, would definitely be organic.
You've made my day, Carla. You've made my day.
Well, I had a store that I started years ago and I never did anything with it. And so now I've got it running, and I'm not running any ads. I'm just working on organic traffic. To be honest, I'm just wasting money on it, in that, I don't expect it. Don't have high hopes, but I'm just curious to see how it goes in 2 years with traffic and stuff. And I've already noticed, I was getting 2 clicks a day. Now I'm getting 10. Oh my God. I get a sale every 3 weeks or something, but I'm it'll be interesting to see how that goes in a couple of years. So, or a year or two.
Yeah. Look, I mean, it's no secret for anybody who's listening who knows me even a little bit. I've spent the last probably nearly 2 years banging on about organic traffic being, at this point in time, the biggest opportunity for an e-commerce business that sells in some way through the search network, right? Google, other search engines, whatever. So, i.e., if you're doing Google ads and making money and you're not doing SEO and you're not developing your organic traffic, that's the biggest lever you can pull, almost always. And I'm doing coaching and consulting with people all the time. It's literally that. Every person I look at, what's their biggest opportunity? It's always that. Most people are getting results through paid traffic, but the scale isn't the same. It's not the same. There's always much more opportunity at this point. with organic traffic. So it's fantastic to hear that you've been seeing that growth. One more question from anonymous Facebook user. What happens if you have damaged items that are repairable? Normally, so I think this is in relation to when you're shipping out of a 3PL, Carla. Normally, supplier would repair them or replace them. How about when you're using 3PL?
We just send spare parts.
Yeah, so Carla's using a 3PL to primarily sell her own products. So it's your responsibility, basically, if you've got warranty issues or anything like that, to sell them, to send those parts or returns out via the 3PL company, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, like, we give amazing service on our own products because it's cost price for us. So, for example, one of our product descriptions didn't have that an item needed to be prepared a certain way, and that was our fault. And so when she bought it, she's like, I can't do this, I'm in a rental. And so I apologize. I actually sent her a new product, and she was over the moon. Whereas, a supplier would be like, well, if it was your fault for not having the information, but because they're your products, A, they don't cost you as much, so that you're happy to send another one. And B, you want to get really good feedback for your product, so you kind of go out of your way to, it's not always about making money. It's also about, especially at the start of building a brand or building, rapport with a product, if that makes sense, it's not about money. It's about getting really good feedback, because that feedback will be what sells for you in the long term. So
oh, absolutely. If you bring a new product to market under a new brand that you've created, getting reviews is like more important than making money.
Oh,
honestly,
100%.
for anybody listening, because you're right, that's an unknown brand, an unknown product. The one thing customers are looking for on that is reviews. Right? They're looking for other people who are not you to tell them it's a good product before they buy it. So going out of your way to help your customers be happy. I mean, you should do it anyway, but it's very important when you're starting your own branded products, for sure. And to add on to the answer to this question, if you were using a 3PL with say you had a local supplier, local manufacturer who was shipping into your 3PL, because that's the only way you could get them to let you sell them, so you're drop shipping, and you have an issue with a product, like a warranty issue, it's still going to have to go back through the supplier, not through your 3PL. So you just have to organize that yourself, because it's not your responsibility. It's the supplier's often. Anyway. Cool. Carla, well, be respectful of your time. Thank you. I think that brings us to the end for today. Thanks very much for joining us.
That's okay.
It's been awesome to have you in here, and there's so many great little ideas and things in there for people watching, particularly, look, if you're drop shipping and you've been thinking about going out there and sourcing your own products in some way, then by all means take this show as inspiration to do that. You can do it. You can do it. It's there's some risk there, but it's not as daunting as you think. And I know Carla would probably recommend that everybody gives it a go.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And we'll see you really soon with the next episode of E-Commerce with John.
See you.